Okay. And I probably will stay here pretty much most of the time, but I'm not a wanderer like HD. Okay. So with HD's introduction, my role here really is to provide a little bit of context of past, present, and future with assessment and accountability. Many of you may be familiar, you probably have lived part of it, and in whether you were a student or a teacher, a parent, or something else. And just to kind of give you that particular thing. Testing and formal testing is not something new to education. It's been around for a long time. Indeed, even since the late 1800s, there's been some type of assessment that's been going on in our schools. We really get into this modern age of assessment is really around 1965 with the ESEA, Elementary and Secondary Education Act, where it really looked at raising standards and providing equity for students across the country. While there were much of a patchwork of things that were done, in 1979, Texas, and with Senate Bill 350, instituted the first statewide testing that was done with TABS. We've got a lot of acronyms that go along. So if you're wondering what TABS means, it stands for Texas Assessment of Basic Skills. And we lived with that from 1980 to 1984, and 3rd, 5th, and 9th graders were tested, reading, math, and writing. And the purpose of the test at that time was really to provide diagnostic information to schools so that they could use them to help inform their practice with students. In 1983, though, there was a shift in what that data was really worked with and done with. And what it was is it was published publicly for all districts, all campuses, so that everyone could see. Oops, went the wrong way. Sorry about that. Okay. And as things were continuing on, there's also this weaving of federal and state information that goes together. 1983 was another significant year in education for testing purposes, with the publication of A Nation at Risk, Crisis in American Education, Urgent Need to Raise Academic Standards, Must Have Stricter Accountability, Increased Testing. That's what will get it done. So in 1984, our response was TEAMS, the Texas Education Assessment of Minimum Skills. We moved from basic skills to minimum skills, increased the number of grade levels, still kept the same 3 subject areas, but now also mandated remediation and retesting for those students who were not successful on the test at that particular time. This was also the first time when you think about accountability that earning a diploma for graduation at grade 11, that grade 11 test, if you did not pass those tests, you were not eligible to graduate. 1991 saw the transition to TAS. We moved from the particular curriculum that was in place before to a newly developed curriculum of essential elements, and looked at a test that then measured academic skills, grades 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. So those first graders, they were not being tested, but other grades were. Still the same subject areas, and again, a diploma if you did not pass in the 11th grade. If you look then also that there was one little improvement that was put in here. There were end-of-course exams that were initiated during this time, and if you pass those end-of-course exams, then you could be considered applicable for your 11th grade assessment and be able to earn your high school diploma. 2002, monumental year for assessment and for education with No Child Left Behind. This is the one that said, no, everyone must do annual testing, and the subject areas were mandated in reading and math and science and specific grades. In addition, there were sanctions that were tied to schools and districts if they did not meet what was called adequate yearly progress. The goal there being that in 2014, 100% of the students in every sub-pop would be successful in every subject area. Lofty goal, certainly something to work forward to, but also we know we can all understand those challenges. In 2003, Texas's response was the Texas Assessment of Knowledge and Skills. This was the new TEKS that were instituted that took the place of the old essential elements for Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. Imagine that. Grades 3 through 11, criterion reference test again in the same subject areas, but social studies was added. And again, the next high stakes piece of grades 3, 5, and 8 required passage on reading and math in order to move forward to the next grade, and still the diploma at grade 11. All the time with this, it is about the different subgroups that were evaluated as went through. 2011 saw the birth of or the dawn of the STAR test, the State Assessment of Academic Readiness. 3 through 8, reading and math, also specific grades for science, writing, and social studies. And high school initially instituted 15 end-of-course assessments. That was changed, and currently now we have 5 end-of-course assessments that are all required for graduation. And while there's some challenges with that, one of the important things in our last legislative session was, for a limited time, the implementation of individual graduation committees for students so that they could be considered to graduate if they were having a problem or a difficulty in no more than 2 of those particular subject areas. The accountability rating system in Texas, as we know, from 94 to 2011, as HD mentioned, had the 4 labels that were given. And there were various student groups and standards that were applied, and the standards varied over the years and increased in where the cut points were on them. 2013 to present, it was about the 4 indices that have been put into place. And as we look through that and see, it has made progress in moving from just one test on one day in a student's life to other particular areas in the post-secondary readiness. However, there has been a lot of fluctuation in the test design and some of the methodology in doing it that's made it difficult for campuses and districts to be able to use some of that information to really understand and gauge how they are moving forward, and also individual students. So what about 2017 and beyond, that 5-domain system that's proposed? That's certainly a step in the right direction. And again, as the graphic that you've seen before, that inclusion of that community and student engagement component in particular, where it is made up of the local community coming together to determine the indicators and the ratings for those particular areas. So as we move forward, what about a framework that would be effective for building student assessment systems as we think about moving even beyond that? Assessments certainly are a key component and will have to always be part of our system, but we need to also make sure that we provide the right system for them. And that involves things like the enabling context of having policy, leadership, public engagement. It cannot be done in isolation. Adequate funding to assure that all of the components are there, not only for just having a linkage between a curriculum and an assessment, but also the training that goes along with it. In the system alignment, it is about curriculum and the learning and quality goals, but it's also about pre- and in-service pieces for teachers and trainings and opportunities to continue to refine skills and to bring the learning into the classroom. And also that constant look and evaluation of those assessments, and then how can we actually use that information to inform practice, and not only at policy levels, but at all of the other levels, and particularly in the classroom with individual students. So how can we minimize that whole idea of one test, one multiple choice type of test at one point in time in a kid's life? Well, we can always look at multiple measures for opportunities to learn, things like performance assessments, formative assessments, but really limiting the number of assessments, making sure that they're good, high-quality assessments that really are delivering and linked to what we value and what we know students need to know and be able to do. The other thing is about using technology to also help guide those branching types of things that take a student where they are and then lead and build into where they should be. When we think about accountability, accountability has to be more than one test, one day, one measure. It really is not just about that moment in the student's life. It is about what it's building forward for college and career readiness standards. What's anchored in that in their current learning as they move forward from elementary all the way through and even into college and into the workplace. And also looking at those curriculum materials, the tools that teachers and students have to make sure that they are available, that there's no inequities in those, and that they are of high quality and standard. And that districts are able to do and utilize those things that they know on an ongoing basis, provide that daily information and other short-term information to support the learning. There are some things that are out there that are very innovative and being used in different ways of being able to provide students being able to take things and things like stackable credentials This is something only recently I've learned about a little of, and certainly we have other people in the audience that are very well versed on it. But things where you could go and kids that do things during the summer, learn and do, and then be able to bring that back to the school because it's done through an accredited, valued, vetted situation where then those skills are there and they can build on and continue on and not have to repeat and redo. So if we go through this, it really is a discussion about not only we need to look back to see where we've come from and all of those particular places to where we are currently, the steps we're taking to move forward, and how we continue to need to look to make it really a system that not only evaluates our educational system, but provides what students need in order to be able to move forward.